This Sunday, of course, is a Father's Day. If you haven't noticed, if you haven't got the memo, then still time to get something sorted. We're doing a fun competition on Rhema Order this week, giving you the opportunity to win some biltong for your dad. And hey, at the risk of this being somewhat of a cultural stereotype, joining us on the program now is Wynand Jacobs from FamilyLife. Kia ora, good morning.
Kia ora. Good morning, Andrew.
Now,
how's it going?
I'm doing very well. You're originally, of course, from South Africa. Is it too much of a cultural stereotype to say that maybe biltong is something that you're fond of? It's a go-to snack, watching TV, reach for the biltong?
You got me watering at the mouth here. I wish I could be in the studio doing the interview with you today.
I just want to say we've got, thanks to the good folk at boerewors.nz, they have made this delicious prize available. We're giving away a whole bunch of it, and honestly, this was full yesterday. I think it's mostly me that's been eating it.
Yeah.
I love the little bits that have got the little fatty bits on them.
Tell me you didn't just do that. You didn't just put a nice big bite of biltong in your mouth.
It was so delicious. And hey, I suppose that's part of Father's Day. Getting on to the actual topic, and sorry to torture you like that, Wynand, but
no, that's all right.
When it comes to Father's Day, it's become a bit of a hallmark event, honestly, an excuse for us to go buy stuff that apparently our dads need. But when it comes to honouring
socks.
Well, exactly, like socks or, I don't know, so your hardware store or his favourite snacks or tip or whatever that looks like. But when it comes to honouring our dads on Father's Day, from your point of view, where do we start with this?
Well, that's really good. And look, Andrew, you rightfully say we want to honor our fathers, right? And often we have those go-to things like, what does dad like? Maybe he needs a tool. Maybe he needs some new socks. Yeah. There's a reason why dad's socks and sometimes undies have holes in them, right? And why they need replacement when Father's Day rolls around. Because dads are actually hardwired to put others' needs before their own, And so I think just be really good for us today to touch on a few things that's hardwired into us men and dads, and then also talk about how we can honor our dads with that in mind. Okay. So, there's a saying that came to mind. I think this was from a show back someday, or I can't remember where I heard this from, but it went something along the lines like, all the best cowboys have daddy issues. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, I think it's a paraphrase of a Pete Townsend quote from The Who. But anyway, no, very true, very true.
The thing is, we as men, the show must go on, and we all play hurt. Yeah. You ever heard that phrase? Yeah. Men are expected often to provide and protect. I think it's hardwired into our DNA, into our design. But that doesn't always mean we know how to do that, and we know how to do that well. And one thing I'd love to just say to every dad listening right now is, you're not perfect, and you're not expected to be perfect, and that is okay. Yeah. But I also want every man listening to this today to know these words, and maybe you haven't received this from your father, is that you have what it takes. And these are words of identity, often spoken into our lives by our dads, or, we live with the pain of not having those words spoken into our lives by our dads.
I think part of the challenge with this one, Wynand, sorry to interrupt, but
go.
But for a lot of guys, becoming a dad is when the penny finally drops that maybe it's not all about them, actually.
Exactly.
That it's a real eye-opener moment, and there's just so much psychologically tied up on being a good dad that the thought of failing or disappointing our children is just such a devastating, overwhelming feeling that it's a big risk to take emotionally, to put it all out there and try and be the best dad we can, knowing that we're probably not going to achieve that, right?
Yeah, and look, it is a risk, but again, a sense of encouragement to dads out there is you have what it takes, even if you feel like you haven't been prepared for it. Okay, so there's three things I quickly want to highlight, that's really important for us as men. And if you're a dad listening to this, and even if you're a lady married to a dad, listening to this, these things are quite fundamental to know. Okay, the first one I want to touch on is suffering well. As men, we actually need to learn how to suffer well, but also in a dad, there's something hardwired to suffer on behalf of their family.
Yeah.
Dads will suffer, hence the holes in the socks, to give their children and their family what they need. All right. So suffering well is like hardwired into our DNA. I'm teaching my son how to do pull-ups right now.
Oh yeah.
And he's sort of hanging there, and he didn't do a lot of this like initially in these early years, so he's got some catching up to do. I guess is the reality there. So he's hanging and he's feeling the pain in his arms from hanging, and he starts screaming at the top of his lungs. And I'm trying to like say, okay, Jonah, now you can do about another 10 seconds. Because when you moment you feel the pain, that's when you really need to start working. Right? That's this concept of suffering well that I need to instill in my child. And we just had this funny thing. It's like I told him as he got off, it's like, Jonah, screaming isn't going to change this. And what you feel as pain is just your muscles realizing, hey, I need to work hard right now. So what you need to do is tell your brain that you're okay. So your body is really okay. Your body can still go, but your brain doesn't think. So you need to send your brain to school.
And that is so different than the mama instinct that just wants to jump in there and rescue. And anytime the child makes a noise, oh, what's wrong? Let me fix that. Very different instincts, right?
Exactly. And we actually need that strength to sometimes override what our brain is saying when our body is feeling pain. That's hardwired into a man, and only a dad can actually instill that in a son. We don't expect moms to do that. The second thing I want to say is the strength and courage. So we talk about suffering well, but then men and dads need strength and courage, that they want to provide that. Okay, but I'm not only talking about the courage that runs into a burning building to save somebody on the inside. I think even though scary as that might sound, most of us are more comfortable to do that than to take the courage to sit with your crying wife in the midst of her emotional pain and support her. But that also takes courage and strength, a different type. And as fathers, as dads, we are hardwired to provide and protect for our family's physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. All right, so strength and courage, it's something that's really in us as men. So the reason I highlight these two things is for men to realize, hey, you're probably on the right track if you've got a yearning towards these things, and also for women, the women in these guys' lives, to say, hey, you want to encourage and speak into these areas, right? So suffering well, encourage them when you can see that they are suffering well, to keep going. Strength and courage, encourage them with when you see that they exhibit these qualities. And then the third one is being needed, right? Men want to be needed. We want to serve our families. We want to do that. We don't want to be nagged, but we actually like being asked. Right?
There's sometimes a fine line between those two things, and not everybody recognize it, just saying.
Yes. But to the ladies listening to this right now, one of the worst things you can probably do to your husband is to say, well, I'll just do it myself. That's indirectly saying, in some ways, speaking to the wound in that cowboy that's got that issues, you haven't got what it takes, so I'm going to do it.
I don't need you, basically.
Exactly. So these three things, I think, and there are others, but I think these three things, learning to suffer well, demonstrating strength and courage, and then being needed, these are quite core to our dads and to the men in our lives. And so now let's just talk about how can we honor our dads with this frame, So again, three things, and I've got another three things for you today. So it's not quite the 1 point sermon today. Thanks, Andrew.
Lots of three. We're good.
Lots of three. So let's honor our dads by doing three things for them. I'm going to say the three, and then we're going to expand on that a little bit. So let's forgive them. Let's tell them how much they are needed. And let's be interested in their past. Okay?
Wow.
So forgiving your dad, knowing that he probably grew up with some gaps, some things that he didn't have, and he probably tried his best, whether or not he did a really good job about it.
Yeah.
So can you forgive your dad even if he hasn't apologized? Right?
That's a tough one.
So let's honor our dads by doing that as a start, and you'll see your own posture towards your dad change, and you'd find yourself being able to love and honor them easier.
Yeah.
Second one, tell them how much they are needed. Going back to what I said before around that core need, wanting to be needed. And then mention the things that you've noticed them do. Be very specific. I notice how you always did this or that, and just fill their tank by recognizing how they are needed and how they have been needed and how you've seen that in your life. And then the third one is be interested in their past.
Yeah.
Right? The last book of the Old Testament talks about turning the hearts of the fathers back to the hearts of the sons and the hearts of the sons back to the hearts of the fathers. We need to reconnect generationally. And one of the best ways to honor our parents and do that is to be really interested in their story and learning about where they've come from, their pains, their struggles, how they've actually elevated you above where they were, and then how we can actually build on that. So I hope that's encouraging to our dads and moms and people with dads in the room listening today.
That is so good. And actually, socks and undies will get you so far. But those three things there, and hey, not just for Father's Day, let's face it, those things both for guys, for dads, to say, hey, here's some practices that I want to put into place. And for us, as we honor our dads, what are the things that we need? What's the affirmation that we're looking for to be encouraged to keep doing the best that we can with what we've got? So good. Best Father's Day ever, Wynand. I wish I could just pass the biltong over to you. Such wisdom. But
where do I sign up for the competition?
Well, yeah, Rhema.co.nz, of course, the place to go for that competition. But for more fantastic wisdom and advice, not just on fathers, but on family relationships, FamilyLife.nz is the place to go. Appreciate you, sir, and the great stuff that you and the team are doing. Thanks for joining us once again.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.